Hello and welcome to Galactic Goddess podcast and show. I'm your host, Radhaa, and today we have Miss Stasia Bliss.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm so excited. We get to do this in person. We've known each other for many years, so we finally get to sit down together and have a conversation about spiritual depression. And this is such an important topic because there are so many more people that are coming into their awakening.
Yes.
And with that comes perhaps a sense of confusion. So
definitely. And more people are struggling with depression and being vocal about it. So we know it's going on.
And so a lot of people, when they feel down, in our society, we're taught like, well, pop a pill because a pill will solve all your problems, right? I think I tried Prozac back when it was all the rage for one day. I got so sick from it. I dumped everything in the toilet and I was like, I'm not gonna do this. My body doesn't like it. And I felt really dizzy and confused. And I was like, this doesn't feel normal.
Strokes are powerful.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like an uplifting high. I know it takes a little while for it to kick in, but my body was like, heck no. So I'd like to just discuss with you, about spirituality and depression as far as like, how does that relate to people who might be going through something? Obviously, you want to have balance. You do maybe have someone you talk to. We're not saying don't go to somebody in the medical field.
Sure.
But be discerning about what's coming up for you.
And what's maybe just another perspective that isn't widespread. That's mostly what I'm interested in spreading is like what else could be going on instead of I'm feeling depressed. Oh, something's wrong with me. I have some maybe illness or disease that I need help for. And even as a healer who works with people to help them shift, it's still finding, that depression is actually there for something. And that's something that I'd like to talk about.
Yeah. And let's talk about this for a second. You are a multi-dimensional coach and healer. So, you're working on multi-dimensions. And I think for people that don't know, most healers do work on multiple dimensions because we don't usually heal on this dimension. We're always healing from a higher, and it's sort of like the trickle down effect or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'd love for you to share like what that means.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of like the time in reality where I can use that word. I think even, very recently, even as much as last year, it still wouldn't be time, but people are starting to understand things in terms of dimensions and that we are multidimensional. And I like just by using the word to trigger that question, like, what does that mean? What dimension is she talking about? There is our physical dimension, but like you said, it's a trickle down, like things are going on in our emotional body, our mental body, our spiritual body, astral body. And like, how do we work those all together?
Maybe share a little bit about what an astral body is, just in case this is new for our audience.
So an astral body would also be something that you would use if you ever lucid dream. It's a part of you that can travel beyond this form and is usually noticed to be attached by a silver cord to the navel is how most people experience their astral body. But I also call it the dream body. It's a good way of calling it.
And I just want to ask a random question. So an astral body could get attacked by an astral being and cause, effects.
Have you seen, what is that show that just came out? Doctor Strange. They do some astral projection stuff in there. And they have like actually astral battles going on.
Oh, wow.
So that's a good depiction on that show.
That is, yeah. So, there are different things that affect us that we may not be able to see with our own eyes. So I think really what this is about is understanding that we have such a broader range than maybe we've been introduced to or been indoctrinated into. And I was just thinking about that this morning, that whatever we're indoctrinated into as a child, we carry that with us as reality. We believe Santa Claus was real, and just imagine all the other things that we were told,
Sure.
So
and so let's talk about like what is depression. Like even that word depression is now become heavily charged, but if we just think about what that actually means, this like weighted, heavy feeling. Usually people associate it with a deep sadness or deep sorrow that they can't get out of, right? This is usually how we talk about it. And so when you think of it like that, most people are like, yeah, no, I don't want to feel that way.
Yeah,
like,
no
that's not a way I want, because society also says we need to be productive.
Yeah.
We need to produce. We need to have goals and do.
And be perfect and never have emotions that are negative, because we got to be perfect and happy all the time.
And you can't contribute properly to society, you know, if you're just in your house with blinds closed or whatever.
Exactly.
But again, that's not acknowledging so many different dimensions at which you actually might be working and actually might need to go in and take care of.
That's an interesting thing. So maybe give us an example, like about one of your clients or...
Well, I mean, just like what you said, a lot of us carry ideas and impressions when we're a child. And when we get to a certain place in our life and we begin to awaken, which actually is a natural process that people go through anyway around age 40, if they haven't already, though it's happening more and more at different ages. But people used to call it an identity crisis, right? You're like, oh, they're 40, they're having an identity crisis. Like, they're suddenly like, what am I doing with my life, kind of thing. But it's natural that at a certain phase that our consciousness shifts and we start looking at everything in our life differently, right? And we might reflect back to when we were a child and think, where did I get this thought? Like, where did I get this emotion? Wait, this is not even really mine. Like, this is something my mom always did or said, and I think her mom too. And we begin to become aware of all that baggage that we carry, right? So then that usually motivates us to want to do something about that. We want to clear that. We want to get rid of it. We want to be able to be ourselves without all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
So it seems like it's a time, like, the midlife crisis is really actually a review period. For sure. And it's a time to review and to come to terms with things, to heal, to, like you said earlier, slough it off, you know, like slough off the old that no longer serves you. I think we start to develop our personality and our values, and also start to review, so many things that we thought were true and maybe realize, oh my gosh, that's not true. And I think that can be really challenging when,
especially to do at work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, that's just coming up and you're like, how do I go to my job?
How am I going to face these people?
Yeah, like, it kind of feels impossible. And so that's, I think, what will ignite oftentimes a depressive state or an anxious state, because you are trying now to do your normal life and process all this stuff that's coming to the surface, right?
So what are some maybe thoughts or tips to help people, or, you know, what's something to think about? Or,
well, first, I'd really like to tie it into this idea that in the East, this is known as a natural maturation process of our consciousness, that at a certain phase, we actually have what's called a Kundalini awakening. And that can happen earlier than 40. Like, some people have that happen in their youth or through psychedelics or, you know, different experiences can cause an awakening. Even a person can just come in, their body awake, and just dip for a moment into like an unconscious place and find themselves, you know, back into, you know, feeling this awakened state again. And when that happens, we have like a physical process that happens in our body. So our consciousness is shifting. So if we think about that, like, our consciousness is what we believe, what we do, what we say, like all these, it's like a pattern of behavior, right? And like you said, a lot of it's based on childhood stuff or programming that we learned. But as soon as we become aware of that, like, those used to be brain neural pathways, right? Like,
that's serious.
Right? Like, every time we've said the same thing or gone the same way or had the same belief, we have like a groove in our brain, like literally, physically.
So we get addicted to also certain pains or addictions or whatever.
Or beliefs.
Or beliefs. You get addicted to beliefs.
Right? I mean, if you think reality is a certain way, and, you know, it's hard to change patterns. Like, we all know that it can be difficult to change a pattern, you know. I want to get up earlier, you know. I'm going to go to the gym. Or I'm going to clean the kitchen every night before I go to bed.
The good ones.
So it's like challenging to do, but that's because we actually have a neural pathway that keeps making us want to do or believe or say like the same things. So we have to get up enough like will or energy to bypass. And a Kundalini awakening actually affords us all this energy. It like gives us this burst that's like, you will change.
Whether you like it or not.
In fact, I'm going to blow this stuff out so that, you know, what a lot of people experience is a little bit of like chaos happens in their life where a bunch of stuff blows up at once, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is significant in a Kundalini awakening. That is even indicative, like, oh, this must be happening.
It's time.
Because this, like, something that's been clogged for a long time and held back, like the dam broke, right? And all the energy is accessible. And that's when, you know, like, you get to kind of choose which new beliefs you want to keep. You know, there might be a sorting process first where you're like, I don't know what I want to do anymore. And that's where I feel like the depression often comes in.
Because it can be probably overwhelming. Especially when you don't have people to talk to. That might not be, a lot of people say that they don't have anyone to talk to, even though they have a lot of friends. And I think that's so interesting. Like, how can you have so many friends and have no one to talk to? But
I think people actually maybe just feel ashamed to admit that they're not doing great because it's still not been like honored in the society. You know, it's not seen that everyone has depression from time to time. And truly, over all the years of working with people, I have to say 100% of people have depression.
Oh, I mean, everyone goes through that. It's such a normal, I think to me, it's such a normal thing. Life is not going to be one big high. You're going to go through the highs and lows. How would you grow? That doesn't even make sense, you know? And I think when you fall so low, what I call the dark night of the soul, those are moments that I've had the greatest gifts come right after. Yes. But I mean, I felt like I just wanted to die. You know, I was like, I don't even want to be here. This is not working. I don't like it.
And here's the truth, though. We do die.
We do. Moments. I did. I've died many times over, honey. I am like 10 new women.
Right? For sure.
I mean, yeah.
But we're afraid to die. Like we have this feeling like, oh, we don't know who we're going to be. We're going to be like something we don't know. And like, you know, we've been trained to be afraid of the unknown.
The unfamiliar. And so there's a gift when it forces you. You know, when I got really sick and I was like, I'm going to literally die and figuratively, my old personality or my old person of having big boobs and being like, you know, that chick, she's dead, you know, but I had to, that was a great gift because I was reborn out of that. Like
a deep honor. I never got to cheers to that. That was some harrowing times.
It was harrowing. I mean, I probably talked to you a few times and I was like, like, I don't know if I can hang on. Yeah, I think I was hanging on by that silver cord. My soul was already like, my astral body was out of the body. But afterwards, I was like, I do feel like a new person. And I can talk about anything. I'm not afraid to say what I really think because I almost died and I don't give a shit anymore, you know? Exactly. And that was the greatest gift because I've always wanted my voice. Yeah. So with that death, died the mute, you know, like Barbie type prototype, and then came for the true person that I am with my voice. So there's always a gift in the process.
And I want to tread gently in this for a moment because I do want to acknowledge that some of our viewers or listeners could be suffering in the depths of depression. Oh yes. And to completely validate the realness of that space. And yet what you just said is like the hope piece, you know, like that something in you is asking you to go to the edge, to like be willing to let parts of yourself die so that the parts that you haven't shown yet, your true gifts and your real self can come out. Yeah. And that can be scary. Like that can take us a long time. Like so sometimes we're just like behind the curtain for so long.
So scary. I mean, that was a prolonged process, even for me. But I mean, I understand you guys. Like, I'm not diminishing depression. I've been through severe depression myself. I know how intense it is. I am right there with you. You know, I'm not diminishing it at all or being like, that's nothing. We're not here to spiritually bypass. This is just a conversation
Like what else? How's another way we can look at this?
It's like, let's just try on different lenses and see how we can look at this in a way that's not shameful, that's not degrading, because, you know, I think there are different ways to look at things.
And I think it is helpful to know, I mean, I never knew this till I was doing the research, that literally when you're having an awakening and you are sloughing off these old neural pathways and they're in your bloodstream and they contain all the hormones of how you used to feel, all the belief structures of what you used to think, all those patterns, and they're actually in your blood again now. And now you feel them actually even maybe more intensely.
Yeah,
it's like a detox, but it's a belief detox. And in that moment where you're feeling that, your depression could be at the worst all time of your life.
Yes,
you know, like you're literally like poisoned with your guilt complexes and everything. It's like you're in that place. Like, think about it. You know, if you come from a guilt culture, which a lot of us have, a guilt or shame culture, you know, like I did. I grew up feeling very guilty about my sexuality, about my body, like any of that. That's pretty normal.
Relatable.
So as we're detoxing that, like think about the quality of our blood in that moment. You know, it's like you don't really want to just stop there.
True.
But if you're feeling it and it's just feeling like I just can't even take this, there is a tendency to loop in that moment.
To go back into that. So when you're, I like the way you said the belief detox. So it's like, I always think of healing as like, oh, it was so buried inside, but now it's surfacing. So I always say, feel it to heal it, because as it's coming up, it actually intensifies and then it's actually leaving. And I always said, let it go, because if you hold on to it as it's leaving, like, no, you know, you get panicked.
You like pull it back in
because it's recreate it. So then you can't come out of that story.
Right.
But my brother gave me the best advice a couple of years ago when I was going through some tough times. And he said, allow yourself to go as deep as you can in the pain. Yeah. Like, don't try to do this. Don't try to wash it away, brush it away. I'm okay. But yeah, like, I'm okay. I'm going to make myself feel better. No.
Or like even rationalize your way into being okay. Like, let yourself cry. Like, let yourself get on the floor and feel the floor and do all the feels. Absolutely.
Because then it's like you're actually giving yourself permission to, it's surfacing and it's now, it activated the pain, it's like a dormant pain. It activated, now it's releasing. And we carry pain of our ancestors too.
Totally. It's actually so much like the birthing process. You'll hear women say it gets worse, like the very worst right before you give birth, where you're like, I cannot, it's done, I can't do it anymore. But when you're birthing a baby, you're not going to stop right there and be like, oh, I'm just going to keep it in. You realize
take a break right now.
There's no way to stop it, you know.
Darn.
But with other detoxes, we can stop it.
Yeah.
And maybe it would be good if we couldn't. But like if you're fasting and you get to like the worst part where you just feel like terrible, like the flu, and you stop, you actually keep all that poison in your bloodstream.
So it's like it came up to the surface, but you didn't let it release.
You didn't finish the process.
Oof. Yeah, it's better to let it go. Like we're going through the great purge, you know, before the great golden age.
We really are. So everyone's going through this more and more. Even the, you know, most awake or whatever you want to call it. Like no one, you know, no one's got the front line anymore.
Like, I'm so spiritual, I'm above it. No, sorry.
We're all like going through waves of the next. You know, because our beliefs are going to be changing so quickly now, getting ready to see more and experience more, like almost nothing that we know can really stay.
I mean, no, I feel like you said earlier, like we're becoming like new humans. And I always think of us like we're finally integrating our galactic selves.
Yes.
Like our star seeds are awakening. We're awakening star seeds. And there's no stopping this. And, you know, part of it has to do with the light coming in, you know, even though it seems like it's been gloomy all around the world. I was like telling Stasia that I was in North Carolina. I was snowed in for a week. I went to California. It was raining for a week. I came to Portland and it snowed for a week. But despite all that, there are light rays from the central sun. Maybe you can share that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're definitely getting like the codes activated and released. I'm more and more liking to talk about the solar system and the sun just also as an internal process because everything out there is in here. So it's like actually the central sun of our consciousness is pulsing us with codes and actually awakening all the dormant DNA, which is light. It's information from within us. And so the same thing's happening in our known universe too. Like it's mirroring the awakening we're having and it's waking up all of, all of the universe too, which is exciting.
It is exciting. It's a beautiful time to be alive, and it's full of tumultuous energies. And I guess really, what I'm trying to say is that, we make ourselves wrong so much. We're trained to see the wrong and to always try to fix it right away. And I'm not saying if you do your thing, if you're on meds, like do whatever's right for you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to pretend to be one. But on a spiritual level, we're just talking about the spiritual side of depression because it's worth talking about. And sometimes we need a different perspective because that gets us out of the mindset that we've been stuck in.
So I made this metaphor the other day about the depression, and I think it's worthy to repeat. It's like we're building a whole new structure of ourselves. We're building a whole new body. This is our home.
Yes.
So it's like we had an old foundation based on all these old beliefs that we were breaking them up, or they're being broken up.
Yes.
And we're giving ourselves a new framework, which has to be the most expansive one we can handle right now. Like what's the most expansive framework of belief that I can handle right now? And then we pour a foundation into it, and it's like the feeling of the foundation like hardening, like cement, is that moment of integration. And I feel like that's where the depression can feel the realest, where you're like, wait, did I just choose this new reality? Whoa, like,
did I just make a quantum leap right now? I can't go back.
And let's be clear, this can happen just in one area of your life. It doesn't have to be everything all at once. Like you could get really depressed over your relationship changing or health stuff coming up. Any one area can feel equally as ginormous.
Oh yeah, but it can catapult. It can be, what I'm trying to say is it can catapult you into a higher frequency, into a deeper understanding, a deeper knowledge of yourself, a deeper love for yourself, acceptance. Like I don't always have to be, put on that mask. I can also be who I am on the inside.
I used to say this mantra to myself all the time. I used to say, this too is bliss, when I was trying to make myself just accept my lows and just be like, you know what, depression, this too is bliss. Anxiety, this too is bliss. I'm crying. I can remember crying in my car one time over something that just hurt so bad, and through the tears saying, this too is bliss, this too is bliss, and just really trying to take it home to myself. Like all of these are valid emotions that actually make us a beautiful full spectrum being.
That's gorgeous. That's so beautiful. This too is bliss, you guys. So I mean, it's really nice to hold yourself in that. There's a poem by Rumi, and I don't know it by heart, but it talks about how all the emotions come to our door, and how we're just allowing them to be visitors. They're just visitors. They're not here to stay forever. Everything passes through. We're passing through. And we don't want to dismiss the value of our feelings, the value of our life, the value of our growth through the ups and the downs,
I love that. It's so true. There is this forever ebb and flow. The rhythm, it's like one of the Hermetic laws is also the principle of rhythm, which is everything moves in waves and ebbs and flows. Our feelings do, the ocean does, the moon, our relationships ebb and flow. Everything has this quality about it, and we have learned to value the highs and the happy stuff and the good stuff, but we have undervalued and gone so far as to call them diseases. Like in some cases, if it is that serious, then I would say we treat it as we do another disease, which is we still want to get to the core root cause. We still want to feed the root
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
nourish, like, how did it get to this state?
How
Is it ancestral?
That's such a great point. That, I mean, the
Yeah.
ancestral thing, and I've done so much digging in my ancestry line that I've found things I would have never known, like horror stories, murders, and things that were astounding to me. But actually, I could see them playing out in my life as if it had happened to me. And I think we need to understand we carry those wounds. My heart was breaking, from my great-great-grandmother getting her head chopped off by her husband, the betrayal of the feminine. And I was living as if I was being betrayed all the time, and
I mean, think about it, even that, just as you're saying that, and if you haven't been able to process or integrate that, it's almost like that wave just keeps coming through because it wants you to look at it and do something with it so you can integrate and move forward, right?
It's a gift. It was a gift when I stopped and I met part of her fragment, that aspect of her. And it was one of the most powerful moments of my life to be able to connect with her and to look into her eyes. She came to me for healing many years ago. And then she was integrated, and then I was integrated. I felt whole, more whole. I mean, more whole after that. And it was a mutual healing, So we're here doing powerful work.
Yes, we definitely are doing powerful work. And the depression is simply another texture. Like sometimes we do need to drop to the pit. We do need to go to the well. We need to go into the dark crevices of ourselves, as scary or as uncertain as we may be about it. And that's sometimes it's good to have a coach to do that. It's not always like something to traverse alone.
Oh no, I think it's important to talk to somebody. It's important to reach out. I'm not saying just figure this out on your own. No. Reach out, talk to people, get a multidimensional coach, a healer, someone that you feel aligned with, that you think could hold you, someone that has the ability to hold that space for you, because it does take a certain level, and
I actually truly believe it's such a sacred space when you go into that zone of depression, that if you're open to it and you recognize that that's what's happening, your soul will call in the correct person. I mean, one deeply depressed moment that I had, this a really dark night, I was in the other side of the world, didn't know anyone around there. I was in some cafe when all this stuff hit. And I just wanted to curl up under the table in the cafe. And literally this man out of nowhere came and sat down. And he was like, "I'm your shaman." And he like walked me right into he's like, "You need to go into that black hole." And he just like gave me all of the words that I needed to hear in that moment to navigate that space. And I'm like, you are that powerful. Like we are that powerful that when we're in that space and we acknowledge like this is something I need to go through, the right beings will be there just to notice,
That's powerful. That gave me the chills. But that's true. We have to also be open to receive. When we're in a really bad space, I mean, all I want to do is like be alone,
Like I could have told that guy, "Oh, I'm having a bad time. Like just go, leave me alone. I'm too like embarrassed to cry in front of you." But instead I was like, "Oh shoot, like someone just got sent to me."
Wow.
Like pay attention, girl.
Wow. Like you're looked after. And I think synchronicities will start to happen. And that's part of the surprise. Like as we think we're falling, it's surprising how we get caught,
Absolutely.
And I found that over and over again. Every time I was like, I'm falling, and I don't think I'm ever gonna get caught. I feel like I'm just gonna crash and burn. And then all of a sudden, this miracle happens, like right as I'm like, okay, when I surrender, I am caught in a space of great divinity, and I'm always in awe. Like I just can't believe this. This is a miracle.
To me, I feel like that's the grace moment. A lot of spiritual paths talk about that, but it's like literally when we can't do it anymore ourselves. we do just let go, and there is a force that meets us there. I truly believe that is true.
That's so gorgeous. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Stasia, for coming
Thank
on.
you
This
so
was such a
much.
great conversation. I think we can do a part 2 about it.
Absolutely.
And thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll put Stasia's link below so you can contact her, and sending so much love.
Yes, thank you. And if you're feeling depression, please reach out.
Yes, always reach out. You're not alone.